It was the same cause of death that claimed John Ritter's father as well. For 3 decades, the genetic time bomb was set to go off. Even while everyone spotted the indications on his last day, no one understood what they meant. The physicians in the emergency department were also mistaken. As he passed away, dozens of people were there to see it. Some took notes on what they observed. A recording of his final conversation with Amy Yasbeck was captured on tape. Because of the autopsy's stunning findings, hospitals no longer treat chest discomfort in the same way. The $14 million settlement clears up all the confusion about what transpired that day. It was in Burbank, California, on September 17, 1948, when John Ritter entered this world. The same Providence St. Joseph Medical Center that would later be his deathbed was also his birthplace, 54 years ago. His legendary singing cowboy father, Tex Ritter, and legendary Western star mom, Dorothy Faye, were his parents. John was engulfed in the limelight and stardom from the start. However, darkness accompanied that light. His life took many twists and turns before he became famous, but it started with Hollywood royalty. John experienced one of those traumatic events while he was a teenager. He was hit in the right eye when a rock, or perhaps a piece of metal, shattered the car window while he and his pals were riding. It wasn't a minor cut. The damage to his retina and iris was permanent. In that eye, he had severe visual loss and bore the burden of a deformed student for the remainder of his life. The injuries not only made him aware, but it also affected his theatrical presence. Even though he was blind in one eye, he mastered the skill of emotional presence. Fans observed a change in his eyes in close-up images, even though he didn't mention it much. John was ironically not pressured into acting, despite coming from famous Hollywood parents. His dad actually told him he shouldn't be in the entertainment industry. A Tex Ritter product wanted John to settle into a stable profession, such as politics or law, after seeing the industry's ups and downs. His mom was worried about the same things. They warned him that the road was tough, but they wouldn't stop him if he insisted. At USC, John studied psychology in an effort to live up to his parents' expectations, but he felt an ever-increasing yearning to go on stage. John demonstrated leadership qualities while still in high school. He served as president of the Hollywood High School student body. From his time in college onwards, he possessed sharpness, humor, and people skills. Academics remained his primary focus. However, I couldn't shake the theater bug. He began participating in school plays where his charisma and impeccable timing helped him stand out. Despite the encouragement of his professors and friends, he was hesitant to give it his all. There was no uprising. Confusion reigned. He felt conflicted about following his emotions or his family's expectations. Everything was altered by an odd and uncomplicated event. The dating game featured him in 1966. Fun was supposed to be the goal. He was simply being himself. He wasn't acting. However, the episode was won by him due to his charm and wit. What is the reward? A getaway to Havasu Lake. Nothing came out of that journey. It was important that he felt comfortable on stage. He was energized by the encounter. He quickly changed his degree to theater arts and enrolled in a course for performing arts. Everything started rolling after that one appearance on the game program. He may never have achieved stardom if it hadn't been for it, but he accomplished something that almost no one knows about before he became famous. John toured Europe with his theater from 1968 to 1969. He had performances in Germany, the Netherlands, Scotland, and England. That was no ordinary sightseeing excursion. While he worked, he studied and absorbed many performance styles. The Glass Menagerie, As You Like It, Love Letters, and more films featured him. This wasn't the red carpet. This was self-control. It helped him become more versatile, perform better in front of new audiences, and adjust to changing circumstances. It bolstered his self-assurance, something American television would never do for an amateur. Life dealt him a devastating blow even in his early performing years. While filming The Waltons in 1974, John received a life-altering phone call. Just one day after the new year, his father Tex Ritter passed away unexpectedly at the age of 68. Devastating was the loss. You couldn't put a price on Tex. As a mentor and guide, he was John's hero. Just as John was beginning to gain his father's respect, he suddenly disappeared. The fact that an aortic dissection was supposedly Tex's cause of death only made matters worse. Decades down the road, John would succumb to the very same illness. That was a horrible twist of genetics. The father and son were bound together by tragedy and fame. John almost didn't have the Waltons, which is ironic. Cast in 1972, he played the role of Reverend Matthew Fordwick. There was an initial plan for the post to be a one-off. Although his performance made him feel like a prominent cast member, he wasn't actually in it. He brought life and humor to an unlikable persona. The crowd adored him. With 18 appearances under his belt, he departed the program in 1976. His development was aided by the part, but what really mattered was that it allowed him to experiment with different roles. The opportunity to try out for the show that altered his life might have passed him by if he had been bound to a contract. It wasn't a film, that show. Actually, his first few film roles were completely unremarkable. He had a brief role in the strange 1971 Disney film The Barefoot Executive, which starred. Ape has the ability to select popular television series. A TV executive's obnoxious nephew was John's character. Both the part and the film failed to impress. His career was unaffected, but it also didn't help matters. Following that, he appeared as a guest on other shows, including The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Kajak, and MASH. These parts didn't propel him to stardom, but they honed his craft and boosted his self-esteem. The audition that forever altered television came next. In 1975, ABC chose to bring Man About the House, a British sitcom, to American viewers. It was going to turn into Three's Company. Jack Tripper was cast from a pool of more than 50 actors. A teenage Billy Crystal was among them, but the one who really stood out was John Ritter. The part called for charisma, physical comedy, and impeccable timing. The world was his oyster. They didn't want the initial pilot. Afterwards, the show's cast and script were changed. At every turn, John had to battle for a spot. Uncertainty and delays plagued the project even after casting was announced. Silverman unexpectedly came across Suzanne Summers while late at night going through audition recordings. She had appeared on The Tonight Show, and he knew her. She was on location in less than a day. When the cameras started rolling, it was as if her tape had magically appeared where none had before. Her charisma and timing were perfect. The show-defining triumvirate was finally complete with the birth of Chrissy Snow on Ned. No one could have predicted the show's March 15, 1977 debut. For the sake of living with two unattached ladies, a straight man is feigning homosexuality. It was outrageous. Stanley Roper was about to remove Jack Tripper from his rental property. So Tripper lied to him. Who even thought it would be a good idea for three single adults to live together? The censors couldn't help but perspire after that. It was considered vulgar by some. The rest saw it as a jab at the gay community, but the viewers? They were completely enthralled. Its initial rating of 11 was just the beginning of its meteoric rise. The program made no effort to be profound. Slapstick misconceptions and gags were utilized. It was attacked by feminist groups. Traditionalists despised it. Still, people kept tuning in. It became more famous than anybody had anticipated due to the dispute. The explosion that nearly destroyed everything followed. More was what Suzanne Summers desired in 1980. She requested $150,000 in addition to her $30,000 per episode salary. It was on par with John Ritter's contract, but the producers turned it down. A rapid deterioration occurred. Summers began to fail to complete shots. Alan Hamill, her husband, approached discussions with an air of superiority. In any case, ABC was unfazed. She was let go. It didn't stop her from finishing the season, though. The contract did. Ritter and DeWitt guarded her from that point on. She acted out each scene by herself, just short phone calls at the conclusion of each episode. No jokes or laughter. Lewd jokes or laughter. Just a personal bodyguard and a personal assistant to her wardrobe made her arrival. After 30 years of remaining silent, she and DeWitt broke their silence in 2012 during an appearance on a talk show. At that stage, Three's Corporation had grown into an empire. The spectacle was pervasive, syndicated to the top 10 in the ratings. The public face of it all was John Ritter. Being Jack Tripper, nevertheless, wasn't without its costs. He caught Ritter every time. He was a true actor with acting chops, a background in drama, and experience on the Waltons, but it was all for naught. The directors noticed Jack, but not John. Even when he experimented with various things and played other parts, the image remained. He remained even as the show's popularity waned in its final seasons. Everyone adored him, yet they failed to recognize his true potential. After much delay, the business eventually acknowledged his work in 1983. Best Actor in a Comedy went to Ritter at the Golden Globes. His Emmy came a year later. It was a major victory. He triumphed against all difficulties and received praise for a show that many deemed unworthy. He was quite kind in his speeches. "A thank you," he said to everyone. The true triumph, though, was when everyone realized he wasn't only tripping over furniture. His performance was unparalleled. His physical control, expressions, and timing were top-notch. These accolades place him among the greats. Just like comedy stars, success is precarious. With Three's a Crowd, ABC attempted to maintain momentum in 1984. Had switched to Ritter's show. Older Jack Tripper lived above his restaurant with his fiancée and dealt with her overbearing father. But there was a strangeness. All chemistry had vanished. People didn't feel anything. ABC's decision to pit it against the A-Team only made matters worse. NBC's most popular show. Also, the original cast was kind of written out of the show. No one informed Joyce DeWitt. Rumor has it that she showed up to watch Jack's new flame try out for roles. It hurt. Out of all the guests, only Richard Klein appeared. Ritter insisted on a full-season guarantee, even though the show received 22 episodes and was renewed for 13 more. ABC declined. With its peaceful demise, Ritter's reign as a sitcom queen came to an end. Nevertheless, he persisted. He made his film debut in 1987's Hooperman, Wife of Fremine. The brainchild of Stephen Bocco, there was a change. Ritter portrayed Harry Hooperman, a police officer who had to manage tenants, a crumbling building, and his personal life. Part comedy, part drama, that was it. He perfected it. He was lauded by critics. He took home a People's Choice Award in addition to Golden Globe and Emmy nominations. However, the ratings were short-lived. After 2 seasons, it was no longer seen. Ritter gained greater esteem as a result. But I can't seem to break free of the rut of sitcom stardom and turmoil. Up next was 1990's Problem Child. It was a very strange action. Ritter portrayed a good guy who takes in a troubled, almost evil child. Some people thought it was terrible. A dismal 0 out of 5 stars on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics deemed it inhumane. Despite animal rights objections, the public showed little concern about a single commercial image depicting a cat in a tumble dryer. Despite spending only $11 million, it managed to earn $72.02 million. Despite reviewers rolling their eyes, Ritter was back for the sequel. In an odd way, it gave him a sense of reality. Amy Yasbeck, who would later become his wife, was his co-star. He made another attempt in 1992 with Hearts of Fire. Played by Marky Post, he portrayed a conservative political staffer who develops feelings for a liberal journalist. It all began at the nation's capital. Despite having an impressive ensemble that included Billy Bob Thornton, the film failed to resonate. In Season 2, they attempted to freshen things up by moving the scene to a tiny town. Its survival was precarious, though. It was obvious by the end of the 3rd season. Nothing magical happened. Viewers lost interest, and Ritter never again had the level of success he had with his show. Then an unforeseen event occurred. He was cast by Billy Bob Thornton in Sling Blade in 1996. Vaughn, played by Ritter, is a gay store manager who is quiet and supportive of Carl. Not funny at all. He was cast by Belly Bo. The drama was subtle and unfiltered. The film was shot in less than a month on a tight budget of less than $1 million. Negative thinkers absolutely adored it. Everyone was taken aback by Ritter's performance. A tense atmosphere pervaded the background, and the fact that Ritter was unhappy with his new haircut didn't translate to the screen. Ritter demonstrated his depth in Sling Blade, which earned him an Oscar. It was in October 1977, the year when John Ritter's show Three's Company debuted on television, that he wed actress Nancy Morgan. From the outside, it seemed straight out of a fairy tale. Tyler was born in 1985, Carly in 1982, and Jason in 1980 were their children. Everything appeared ideal for a time, but unfortunately, celebrity does not come cheap. Their marital discord was becoming more pronounced by the late 1980s. They gradually drifted apart due to the demands of Hollywood, their packed schedules, and living in the spotlight. They had divorced by 1993. Officially divorcing in September 1996, the couple quietly realized they were no longer destined to be together. There was no public outcry or scandal surrounding the split. The kids were close to both sets of parents, and Nancy never stopped rooting for John to succeed professionally. Whereas most celebrity breakups escalate into toxic drama, theirs remained civil, low-key, and grounded. But while John's first marriage was coming to an end, an unforeseen development was taking place. He first crossed paths with Amy Yasbeck in 1990 while filming Problem Child. They hit it off right away. In the midst of a relaxed table read at the director's residence, John observed that Amy had not consumed any food and presented her with a cream cheese-topped bagel. Something greater began with that small spark. A friendship developed subtly between them as they worked together on set for the following several months, sharing laughs and tears. John and Amy shared a passion for classic Hollywood films, and Amy went on to say that he helped her become a physical comedy master. John and Nancy's emotional estrangement had begun to wear him down, even if he was still married. Although he finalized his divorce in 1996, his affair with Amy remained secret for many years. Nothing was rushed. Their 1999 wedding, which came 9 years after they first met, was not the result of a tabloid romance. It was genuine, acquired, and based on trust between the two parties. Throughout John's life, his children were the protagonists. They have their own intricate stories to tell. Parenthood and Raising Dion were just two of Jason's many acting credits. He continued his father's acting career. His talent propelled him to Emmy nominations and a successful career. Not inherited. Carly changed her career path and is now a folk singer. Her first album was out in 2013. Before returning to his acting roles in Arrow and The McCarthys, Tyler sought refuge in Argentina as a teacher, avoiding the limelight for a while. Stella, who was born in 1998, went through a gender transition and is now known as Noah Lee, Ritter. While many were taken aback by Noah's 2016 public coming out at the age of 18, his siblings were unwavering in their support. Divorce, stardom, loss, and self-discovery are all things that the Ritter children have experienced. They remained steadfast throughout. You can feel the warmth, humor, and unwavering love for family that was John in every one of them. It wasn't merely a love story when John wed Amy Yasbeck. It was a story of redemption. The wedding took place on September 18, 1999, while in Wilmington, Ohio, at the Murphy Theater, and the location had significance, character, and history, and it was almost a century old. And Stella, their daughter, was born to them on September 11, 1998, a full year ago. It was a week filled with 3 birthdays. On the 12th, Amy. On the 17th, John. And on the 11th, Stella. To me, their wedding was a joyous celebration of life. There was no grand Hollywood spectacle at the wedding. A lot of affection was there, and it was intimate. According to Amy, the day was very magical because of John's jokes and friendliness. That abandoned theater was more than a sight to them. It represented the importance of timing, second chances, and family above everything else when stardom fades. The most subdued part of the story became the most prominent in 2016. The long-absent Stella Ritter came out as transgender and started living her new life, played by Noah Lee Ritter, and she turned 18 years old that day. Not only did the identity of her father make the news headlines, but the fact that it was practically unexpected also contributed to its prominence. None of the Ritters batted an eye. Amy proudly and lovingly stood by her kid. Without hesitation, his siblings extended their support. If John were still alive today, his loved ones would all agree. In an instant, he would have welcomed Noah wholeheartedly. Now that he's 25 years old, Noah keeps a quiet profile in Los Angeles. He has no desire for stardom. In Hollywood, perhaps the most courageous thing he can do is just be himself. Be himself. John had regained his former glory only a year before he passed away. His tween daughter's dating show, Simple Rules for Dating, had her television debut in September 2002. Many felt he was past his prime and couldn't make a return. That was a mistake, Hanat. As Paul Hennessy, the overprotective father attempting to navigate the anarchy of adolescence, he was a huge hit with audiences. It was funny and heartfelt all at the same time. With John's help, it felt natural. Already in 2003, it was named Best New Comedy by the People's Choice. Not in his role as Jack Tripper, but Ritter was back. Even he had changed. He had better timing and more genuine affection. Families all over the world started looking forward to the show every week. It was authentic. It wasn't merely humorous. He didn't make a triumphant return. It served as a timely reminder that certain luminaries are immortal. Despite the apparent success, something was seriously wrong. September 11, 2003 began on the set of 8 Simple Rules like any other morning. The iconic Fonz actor Henry Winkler was a surprise guest star. All eyes were on them. All were on them. As always, showstopper John Ritter was beaming with joy. He made sure everyone on set felt comfortable by cracking jokes and laughing with Winkler. He didn't appear to be a man in peril. He exuded vitality, enthusiasm, and engagement. However, underneath the surface, there was an underlying problem, an unexpected turn of events. Things took a dramatic turn later in the day. Ritter started pulling a heavy hoodie. His cheeks turned pale. Despite his best efforts, he couldn't help but grab his chest. He persisted. That was his character. Very dedicated, laser-focused, and hesitant to disappoint people. However, indications were present. I feel queasy. Queasy feeling. Chest discomfort. The signs and symptoms were similar to those of a cardiac arrest. Not at all. He had aortic dissection, a rupture in the main artery leading out of his heart. It's lethal, uncommon, and frequently misunderstood. Truly, that is the outcome. Providence St. Joseph Medical Center's doctors failed to detect it. They suspected a cardiac arrest. He was treated unfairly by them. Things became worse as a result. In his dressing room, Ritter passed out around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. A wave of terror swept through. Screams erupted from the cast. The actress who played his daughter, Haley Cuoco, portrayed an image of complete anarchy. There was a stampede of people who knew him. He was so weak that he was hardly conscious. Responders moved swiftly. Rescue services were dispatched. But nobody realized that time was of the essence and that each second wasted was crucial. He was conveyed to the medical facility across the street from where he had been born in 1948, some 54 years before. A tragic turn of events. Ritter made a final phone call en route to the hospital. "Amy Yasbeck," he summoned his wife. "I must visit the hospital." "I love you," he declared. His final words to her were these. He was treated for a heart attack after he arrived at the hospital. A chest X-ray, which could have shown the truth, was skipped. In the event of an aortic dissection, the administration of blood thinners is usually fatal. Nevertheless, Ritter sought a second opinion. On the other hand, medical professionals claimed that the necessary time was not available. Amy encouraged him to have courage by whispering in his ear, insisted he put his faith in them. He gave the go-ahead, and he was rolled into the operating room. Surgeons discovered something awful. In addition to being torn, his aorta was shredded. Because of the extent of the damage, it could not be repaired. The situation had deteriorated due to the previous therapy, and the opportunity to rescue him had gone. He passed away later that evening. The official time of John Ritter's death was 10:48 p.m. His 55th birthday was approaching in just 6 days. Suddenly, a life that was yet full of potential was cut short. Everyone was shocked. His family, his fans, and Hollywood itself, by the news. Despite her grief, Amy Yasbeck was resolute and sued for wrongful death, seeking $67 million. She said that 2 doctors in the hospital had misdiagnosed Ritter. This sum was calculated using Ritter's expected future income. Episodes cost $350,000 in order to air for a projected 7-year duration. She was of the belief that he may have been rescued with just 1 test and a proper diagnosis. Case focus shifted to the missing chest X-ray. Someone had requested it. Nothing ever came of it. There was a $14 million settlement between the hospital and 8 other doctors before the trial ever started. Of it, $9.04 million was paid by Providence St. Joseph Medical Center. It was among the biggest communities of its sort. Amy, though, wasn't finished yet. She sought redress by bringing the matter to court. It took a month for the judicial battle to conclude. It was emotionally charged, public, and traumatic. Everyone from Ritter's family and friends to his co-workers gave statements. The verdict was handed down by the jury in 2008. The results were negative for both DRS, Matthew Lodish, and Joseph Lee. There were 9 abstentions. They were 3 who were in disagreement. Most people thought the doctors had handled the situation admirably, considering how stressful it had been. They contended that Ritter's illness had progressed too far. Even with the correct diagnosis, Ritter would have perished, according to one specialist. He presented with an extremely unusual symptom of an extremely rare illness. According to the defense, the argument took everyone in the courtroom and beyond by surprise. Juries reached a unanimous verdict. This was Amy's second setback. Still, she wasn't done fighting. Amy established the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health in the weeks following John's passing. It had a distinct purpose: get the word out to save lives. They drew up the Ritter regulations. Aortic dissection can be tricky to spot, but following these simple rules can assist. An important fact is noticeable. Treatment is postponed by 1 hour. Someone dies every 1% more often. Every 1% more often. This work resulted in the rescue of several lives. Tom Ritter, who was John's brother, also discovered he had the same problem and received treatment promptly. Ever since then, the foundation has raised millions. Famous people, survivors, and medical professionals have all been there for important occurrences. A hopeful movement has been born out of the tragedy that befell one family. The passing of John Ritter was more than a tragedy. In the end, it became a wake-up call, a reminder of how short life is, a cautionary tale about the fact that even seasoned medical professionals sometimes fail to see what's truly important, and a legacy that was built not just on joy, but on the saving of lives.